will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. There's desperate measures. Here's, they're hopeless. They don't have any hope. They're gonna kill us, and we have no man who can stand up to Goliath. So here's what we'll do. I'm gonna give my daughter, and I'm gonna make my father's house free in Israel to anyone who can conquer the giant. And so that's desperate measures, because there's no one else anyone can do in Israel, because they're all afraid. Who can stand up to the giant? So they have desperate measures from 24 to 26, okay? And we have a subconscious attempt to throw off David's faith. And I say subconscious because I don't think they were doing this consciously. I think it was a subconscious thing that the enemy was using to throw off the faith of David as he was standing there to battle Goliath. Verse 28. Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, which is a contradiction to what the word of God says, that David was a man after God's own heart. He says, For I know the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, What have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. So this was kind of set up to discourage him, okay, to not go out there. What are you doing here? You should be home. When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him. There's another attempt to try to throw him off out of his faith and what the Lord was going to do. There was two attempts, one by Eliab and one by Saul. You're not able to do this. Go. It's not going to happen. Okay? But what ends up happening is David still goes forth. David shows faith, and he still goes forth with this. He's not going to let anybody stand in front of his way, because he's not afraid of Goliath. Okay? So we see in verse 31, when the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, You are not able to go and fight this Philistine. You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and the uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. And David said, The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Go, and the Lord be with you. So we have two attempts to throw his faith off and to throw what was going to happen off, okay? And we have David's acknowledgement that the Lord himself was defied, not Israel. Okay, we see that in verse 38 and 45. We're going to put it here. Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. And David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he has not tested them. Then David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them. So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. And the Philistine moved and came near to David with his shield bearer in front of him. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. And the Philistine said to David, Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field. So we see is that, Saul said, okay, you want to go into battle with Goliath? Here, take my armor with you. And he says, no, I don't want that. I can't put it on. He never tested it. That's not what he was used to, okay? And I think what the author's trying to tell us is that, in essence, is that if he did took that in one sense could take the glory of God away from him, because we see that he didn't need all of that stuff to fight the Philistine, because it was God himself who was going to do it, okay? So he didn't need none of that coat of armor. He didn't need anything that Saul had to give to him. All he needed was his skills, what he had, and the Lord So that was an attempt to take away the glory of God from what he was going to do. So he didn't need that. So David's acknowledgement that the Lord himself was defied and not Israel, we see it in verse 45. It says, Then David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. So who did the Philistine defy? It was the Lord himself. It wasn't Israel. You know, they're standing there and they want to fight with Israel. Yeah, they're not defying Israel. They're defying the Lord himself because that's the Lord's people. And he says, This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God. There's the whole point of I think the major theme that we're going to see is that right there, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand. So the whole point is that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. This battle is ensued, and we see that, what's the purpose of the battle? Why are they going to fight? Why, if replacing God as king, why didn't God just give them over? Why didn't God just say, okay, you want to replace me as king? I'm going to leave you, and I don't have anything to do with you anymore. But why is it, okay, that God continues to put up with these people? And it says right there, okay, that God is going to show all the earth that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves, not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand. So we see the victory. The Philistines arose and came and drew near to meet David. David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistines. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. Story goes on to tell us that he had victory over Goliath, and we know that the victory, according to the text, belonged to the Lord. So we have the victory. Crucial area, verse 56 says, And the king said, Inquire whose son the boy is, talking about David. And as soon as David returned from striking down the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Who is Jesse? That's a question. Who is Jesse? Is he introduced over here? So who is Jesse? Where does he come from? What was that he's introduced in the text? Jesse was the son of Obed. Obed was the son of Naomi and Boaz. Okay? What's so important about that? What's so important about that lineage? Well, I'm going to turn to Matthew chapter 1. Who is Obed and who is Jesse, the father of David? And what's so important about that? I'm going to read Matthew chapter 1, verse 4. And this is just a genealogy. It says, And Ram, the father of Aminadab, was the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth. And Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David the king. There's a line going on in there of all of these fathers, and Jesse was the father of David. Jesse comes from Obed, who comes from Naomi, from Ruth and Boaz. Verse 15 of Matthew chapter 1 says, and the genealogy continues, and it says, And Eliud the father of Eleazar, and Eleazar the father of Mathan, and Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called Christ. So the genealogy states that from Boaz and Ruth was born Obed, and from Obed Jesse, and from Jesse David. And then we see that from David, who do we get? We get Jesus Christ coming from the line of David. Okay? So what's so important about that? Well, Jesus was born through the line of